that out, right? He won't be here next episode.
Okay,
That's all right.
brothers and sisters, it's good to be back. Another True Discussion podcast. We're gonna jump right into it, so we're not dilly daddling here. Okay, we don't want to waste time. We got stuff to get into, and hey, we got a guest, so we're gonna jump right into it. Anthony, Chris, Joseph. This will be Mike, so there's no confusion. Tell us about yourself. Where are we gonna kick this episode off?
Where are we kicking this off?
Welcome.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming.
This is new to me. Never done one of these before, so.
Well, cool. So, what? I guess maybe I will get us going, and then you can explain to the listeners. We're international, so you may want to speak in a different dialect at some point. But no pressure. It's no big deal at all.
Yeah. It's just that the millions of listeners do expect you to be very articulate.
Yes,
no goofing around.
No goofing around. No,
no
stumbling over myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck.
So, all right. Well, so I invited Anthony. Anthony is my Jiu Jitsu grandmaster.
No,
is that right?
No, gosh, no. Just a
Jedi.
coach. Just say
Jedi.
we can go with Jedi. That's
okay.
fine. Yeah. Go with Jedi.
And so that's how I've gotten to know Anthony. Super cool guy. We had lunch some time ago, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And just
It was probably one of the quickest hours I've ever had at Crazy R's.
Yeah. Well, this podcast
Chris
is
was
gonna
like,
be.
"You got an hour?"
No,
And I'm like,
when you.
we started talking, and I was like, we didn't even scratch the surface.
Good discussion.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it very much, and I felt edified for sure. So I wanted to share that with the listeners. I had to bribe Joseph, but
Okay, that's fair.
you know,
Hey, who
whatever.
runs the show? No, just kidding. What's cool though is to hear that, Chris, like saying you did meet at Jiu Jitsu.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
my first
And
interaction.
so, like to hear him talk about you, it's pretty cool. But I'm gonna be honest, when he does talk about you, all he says is how much is he would destroy you.
No,
at
no,
Jiu-Jitsu.
no, sir.
absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
quit that. Don't do that. Hey, man,
Yeah.
don't do that to me.
I
Are
don't
you
know.
coming tomorrow night then?
Am I coming tomorrow night?
Hey, let's not
To
do
watch what you just did?
I would do that. Yeah, I would watch.
Yeah.
I could watch.
This. No, come on, man. I didn't say. You know, I wouldn't
Now,
say
are
that.
we humble enough to say that? Who would take who? Do we know that yet?
Are you? It's not. Okay, listen. I think I said this on one of the last podcasts. Going with Anthony is like me or you going with our kids.
Oh, he
Like,
did
it's
say that.
not-
He did say that.
Like,
Okay.
I am not worried at all what my kids are gonna do to me. Like, there's nothing. It's like that rolling with Anthony. He does that to me.
I take
Now,
good care of him.
Anthony,
he does,
okay,
he does.
Anthony, can you respond to that? But also, can you make Chris feel pretty good about what he just said?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Come on, man. Yeah.
Yes, and yes.
No, it's awesome. And now I've not been to any jiu-jitsu gyms at all, but I'm
So
telling
was
you,
this
dude,
okay? Answer me this question then. And I don't know if I've asked you this, but I typically ask most people that come in for the first time, like, what's your background? Obviously, we have wrestling.
Yeah.
love it.
Nothing. Absolutely. So
Just-
even better. But
Yeah, I know.
Empty cup. That's
Yeah.
what I would bring to the table.
no, but
Wait. Who would be a talk? This is a loaded question. Who's a better student? Someone that has some background or completely blank slate?
well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is, right?
That's got to be an individual, right?
Well, that's going to be way more individual because it's really based on how the person just kind of intuitively understands their body, and there is a stigmatism with wrestlers though because there's a certain aspect of jiu-jitsu that the game is played on your back, so you can already kind of see the conflicting dynamic with someone that is a wrestler.
Not
Okay,
being on the back.
Don't-
exactly.
Okay, I
Don't
got
go to
you.
your
I
back.
got
So
you.
they tend to play that more. So it really is like you're only playing with half of the game.
And you need to be comfortable on your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Okay.
I've not been doing it, but this is
Oh, what
started in February, so
Yeah,
this is
so-
in April. So
yeah,
I mean, not
No,
long at all.
Okay.
So
And then
I
how
love
long
it.
have you been?
Oh, 7.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, about 7 years.
Wow.
Now, give or take.
Wait,
So-
hold on.
Well, wait.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask a dumb question because where have you been doing that? We don't have jiu-jitsu around.
No, this is like no. So like where do you want to go with
Okay,
this?
Okay, all right.
Okay, because
So we're about to
Just
start-
so the listeners are aware, this isn't going to be just a jiu-jitsu episode. Now, that'd be cool if it still is. But it's going to be Jesus in jiu-jitsu
Yes,
is what I was
absolutely.
told.
Okay,
I
All
agree.
right.
So we can definitely.
let's do this.
So where do you want to?
I want to end up with jiu-jitsu, but where I want to start is I want the listener to understand who you are, where you come from.
Yeah.
You know, that
Okay.
kind of
So,
thing. So
all right. Let's go back a few.
All right, man.
because how old are
We'll
you?
get there.
Okay. That's a good question.
You
35.
okay?
Yeah.
It sounded like for a
This
second I
this
thought you were going to
February
be
was
like,
35.
man,
Dare
maybe
you.
I have been concussed too many times.
Yeah. It
I'm
was.
just
It's
not
30.
sure.
35.
Okay,
Yeah,
35.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all
we
right.
can. We can confidently say that I made
Okay,
it to
very
there.
good. Very good.
Reference the driver's license.
Yeah.
35.
35. I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. So where did you grow up?
Okay. So I was born in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
That is where my birth certificate places me. And then, so my folks were heavily, well, let's say both my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family were heavily involved in ministry and pastoral functions. And so I'm going to say somewhere in the 8 to 9-ish years of my life, they felt called to move to Colorado and start a church in a small little town, Westcliff, Colorado. And that's where pretty much I claimed my home. You know, that's where I grew up, high school, you know, basically, you know, grew up a bit, the largest portion of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I do. I've got one younger brother, Josh, and then I've got 2 younger sisters that we actually adopted from China.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Abby and Grace. So yeah, and
Very cool.
they're fixing. So this is funny. Abby. So we adopted Abby when I graduated high school in 2005.
Okay.
And my parents actually made it back 2 days before actual graduation from China with Abby. And so, and then now this year here next month, Abby is actually graduating high school. So I'm just kind of, it's been kind of a weird, like few, you know, this has just been a weird year for me because I've been thinking back to when we first got her and we're like where I was at, you know, just fresh out of high school. And now she's fixing to graduate. I'm going, no, because it's just kind of a, you know, it's kind of one of those moments you're like, oh man, you know, so.
Yeah, so she would have been just a few years old.
Oh my goodness, yeah, she was 6, 7 months.
Man.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
so
got
not
her.
even a year.
Yeah,
Wow, okay.
no.
Well,
I believe.
This is 2022.
22. Yeah.
So
do the
yeah,
math.
so yeah.
Man, that's really cool.
So yeah, that was a
Now,
life.
did you play sports growing up and all that?
Yeah,
or-
I did.
Okay.
I played baseball, hated it. Football,
okay.
loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, football. I was. There was a lot less room for talk
Uh-huh.
in football. It was you could speak with your,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
much like jiu-jitsu.
Uh-huh.
But you know, baseball. It's just, man, for some reason, baseball. You know, I did it just to stick with it because I'm kind of like that. I'm kind of like that guy where it's like, man, it's not awesome, but I'll stick with it.
Sure.
And it's just the trash talk and the ego and the, I don't know. It's just
Fair enough.
Now, and how much younger is your brother then?
about 3 years younger. So he's going to be 32.
Okay. And where does he live?
He's in Montana right now.
Okay.
Belgrade, if I
Very
get
good.
that right.
Now, if you guys rolled, who would?
Now here. Pardon my phone. Maybe I should have turned that off. Maybe, huh? That's him right now. Hey,
Yeah.
it is actually.
You're dead.
Wait, we're not live, are we? No. So, let me put that on silent. Josh, I always say Josh, you know, my younger brother, he's the one that got all the muscles and the better looks. You know, he's about, 6'2", 200 pounds, and just, and I don't know, I just didn't develop into that.
Right.
I was always kind of the scrawnier.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually, he's not into mixed martial arts in
Okay.
any way.
Uh-huh.
he was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, so he went.
So he's a bad dude.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, you
bad
wouldn't.
dude.
Yeah, I would. You would definitely. If it was me, I would definitely think twice
Sure.
before
Yeah, that's fair.
any altercations. You would just definitely want to just.
Now,
tough.
are you speaking right now in a way to salvage like Thanksgiving, any tussle?
No, that's the honest.
future?
That's the
real deal.
That's
huh?
the honest truth. Sport jiu-jitsu, that might be a different story.
Sure.
But on the street,
Nah.
I don't know. Marines, because and then we can go into, that's how I actually started. And we can go into that.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm excited, man. We'll get there.
But yeah, the Marines, the military mindset is a total different world. It really is.
Yeah.
And we can dig into that here in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's where a little more of the Jesus comes in too, right there.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay, so you grew up in a Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, when did you come to faith? When did it really take root?
Early on, I would say take root.
Well, when did you profess? Because I feel like that's important.
Yeah,
I don't
it was
wanna
probably around
minimize that.
6.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. So early on,
Mhm.
and I think baptism might have been early teens.
Okay.
Probably,
Yeah,
I would say.
And was that? And I'm asking more for myself, even. Like, was that something like baptism? Is that something that you decided, or your parents pushed, or didn't push? Because
That was a self-made decision.
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
Because that's where both of my sons have professed.
Okay.
But baptism is one of those things where I've not pushed. I feel like I want
That's
them
like
to
a
come
personal.
to that place.
That's a personal.
Yeah.
I think.
So do you think that, I guess in
realization.
retrospect, do you think that was good of your parents?
I think so. They were, and my dad in particular, they were very careful not to push too much. Now, honestly, if it came to correction, that's a different story.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think if you were to, for me to think back into, just the relationship aspect between Christ and myself, they never kind of pushed you in any uncomfortable position. They left it really up to myself or my brother, for that matter.
What about like church attendance? 'Cause,
Church
I
attendance?
assume your dad was preaching.
Right, yeah. So he's been a pastor my whole life. Just recently retired. But church attendance, and even in my own personal, there was never really any fight to not. You know what I mean?
So you'd never pushed back.
Yeah,
I guess
no.
I was just curious if they were very hey, every time the door's open, you're going to be there.
Go.
Right,
or
yeah.
If there was anything like that, or
No, and that kind of may have just been an unsaid, goes without saying kind of a
Sure,
thing.
yeah,
And
maybe.
understanding and, just the importance of fellowship with your Christian brothers and sisters. I never thought anything of it personally.
Sure. Now you're. I mean, I feel like you're just a super chill guy. That's the impression
Sometimes too relaxed. Ask my wife.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
on certain things. Don't get me
Sure,
wrong. There's
yeah,
some
yeah,
things
sure,
like
sure,
you need to cool down.
Yeah. So are your parents both that way? Is one of your parents that way? Or
Now,
I guess-
okay, so now you're going back to that whole thing before we even started. Is it the Dovidio Italian? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So-
yeah.
Yeah. So now,
And I
okay.
asked about the mafia, and you
Right.
said,
I said-
"Hey," he said, "No,
Don't
sir.
ask."
Can't go into that.
We can't go into that.
I'm teasing.
But so this is interesting. So my mom's side of the family is all Mennonite, Amish background,
Okay.
and then which is super
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost legalistic. Right?
That's the only time
very-
I've ever seen someone describe something accurately without even saying a word.
Right. It's-
Beautifully done. Anthony.
Good application.
You know how it is.
Okay, so and then my dad's side of the family, the Dovidios, and loud. My dad's sister, Thanksgivings, Christmas. Loud
Oh,
and
is that
just
right? Okay.
yeah, lots of lots of wine.
And your dad is that way, or
so my dad would have tended to be more loud and just
Yep.
My mom was very quiet,
Okay.
and spoke softly, but carried a big stick.
Sure. Don't
How
get it
did he?
twisted.
I guess I've never seen this. Then how was his preaching style? Was it that way?
Yeah, so my dad's preaching, growing up, and this came from his father, was very charismatic. So it was it was on the charismatic pendulum of the spectrum, rather, if you want to, for lack of a better term.
Like charismatic weird, or like just because I feel like things have gotten weird, or at least
absolutely.
Sure.
I would agree.
So I feel like
absolutely.
when you say charismatic then or growing up, I would tend to think, that's probably very conservative.
Yeah.
Well, probably to some of today's standards, probably.
Okay.
But the other thing is you have to understand is that they lived in New York, so you had a lot of inner city churches. So you had the African American base, the big hats, and
sure.
yeah.
What's interesting though?
So it got loud.
Yeah.
Sure, but I'm sure you've heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the stories in I think Eric Metaxas wrote the autobiography. Is it auto or is it biography? Sorry.
Yeah.
About Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer was super bright as a young man and grew up in an affluent family. And over in Germany, they could not be ordained until I think it was like 25. And so he went through all the school, did all that stuff, and ended up coming to the United States, spent some time in the New York area. And he said, theology in America is all but dead. But he commented very much on like the African American church and just how vibrant it was. And so
it was colorful.
Right. Yeah. But what's interesting about that is to make the claim that theology in America is all but dead, but then to say, hey, but this church is the real deal.
That's interesting.
I thought, that
I've never heard that. Okay.
So, anyway,
but
it made me think of that. So.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
Anyway, I'm sorry, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
We'll talk about whatever we want to talk about. It could get weird.
All right, so your dad, you grew up preaching, so he was kind of more on the charismatic side of things, which is fine. You're chill probably because your mom. When I look at you, I'm gonna be honest, man. I see my brother. You and my brother look a lot alike, man. It's weird.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I think I could take him though, and I know that I cannot take you. So, just to set the record straight.
At least we have the record.
Exactly.
It's on record.
No need to punish me at any point in the near future.
Good grief.
So
he's awfully nervous.
All right.
I didn't realize
I know. We're covering all our tracks. Like I don't want to slip up.
All right, man. All right. So you graduate high school. Valedictorian?
No. I was never the brightest when it came to grades. I mean, I got it done. I got it done.
Yeah.
Good. Endeavored to persevere. But
I like that. That's good, man.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay, so you graduate, and then what happens?
Graduate. So we graduate, and then life took like a big change because we introduced the adoption whole thing to the family. And so then I just went straight into the trades. I mean, I was big into music up until like maybe early 20s.
Okay.
Up until when I got married.
So like what, like singing, dancing?
No, just the drums, into bands, wanting, that was the lifestyle that I was pursuing.
Okay.
All the while working in the
trades. So where did you learn to play the drums?
So that was kind of a family thing, my dad had done it, growing up.
Cool.
And he taught me, and then I just took it and enjoyed it.
So did the church, did they have a...
Oh, absolutely. So grew up in church playing the drums on the worship team. Still do. I mean, I play, on occasion at our church. So, they have a rotation. So, but yeah, I mean... where were we going with that?
What church you attend?
Levant Community.
Thank you. I don't know if I know
Ron Alexander is the pastor over there.
I know where Levant's at.
I know where Levant's. Yeah. I feel dumb.
It's kind of, don't blink.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like that's cool.
Yeah. so the listeners can come still listen to you play the drums?
I wouldn't make a special trip.
Okay, hold on, man. You grew up playing, and that's something you were serious about. How could you not be good at it?
Well,
I feel like this
good.
Put the guy on
good
the
is
line.
violence.
all
if I
right.
get that.
Let me put it to you this way: freaking amazing is dime a dozen. So when it comes to the music industry, you know what I mean.
Sure.
You know, freaking amazing is dime a dozen.
Okay.
And you know, when it comes to maybe probably being successful in the music industry, the one thing I learned is it's who you know, not how awesome you are.
Right. That's fair.
And so I just.
How did you learn that?
How did I learn that?
Yeah.
As in like that, like thought process.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
I guess I'm asking. Did you have an experience that drew you to that conclusion?
Yeah. I mean, because you know, there's a. I guess you'd have to go to like Tennessee.
Okay.
You know, and the streets are full of people just that are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But you have to find that right person at the right time, and you have to have. I mean, so look at it this way. I was watching a documentary on some of the latest country singers, like name a couple.
I don't know.
I mean, George Strait for one.
Okay.
So,
but that's old school, right?
Yeah, but these
Do you
guys.
listen to country?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I mean, some of it.
Gosh,
but
I liked you a lot, man.
No, wait. What kind of country do you like? What kind of country do you not like?
Some of this new stuff don't even seem like country
So like
music.
older stuff.
Yeah, I would tend to go. Okay. Look at this. We've made friends.
Yeah. I love
you
the
lost
old
one and you
country
gained
sound.
another.
And I would say the latest is 90s. Now there's still some good hits now.
There's a hit and miss, yeah, for sure.
But like older stuff is just it's so good, man.
I like the storytelling aspect of most of it. That's what I like. Maybe not necessarily the actual sound, which it's an intriguing sound. If you're a musician, I mean, I like a little bit of almost everything.
Well, I wouldn't
for the most
understand that, guys. So
I'm just not musically
You need me to.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
You need me to step out a little bit.
It's okay. It's good.
Right, okay.
You can stay.
I can play the air guitar though.
Don't let him.
Please don't do that.
But
please don't do that.
I would agree with you. There is enough, and it seems like almost everyone that's been in the business says just that there's talent on all the street corners.
Yeah,
there's gobs of like awesome talent.
Yeah,
but you got to have the right moment, the right meeting,
right connections. You got to know the right people.
Yeah. And today's artists, not to poo-poo on them, but there's proof that you can have the right meeting and no talent.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
All right, so there you go. So going out to Levant Church, Anthony has all the talent.
Here we go.
I'm trying to push you. I'm trying to push you, big guy.
You're doing all right.
Okay, so where were we heading? Where were we heading?
Well, so
that was an aspect of growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
So you right in the trades. What does that look like? Did you stay locally?
Yeah, I did. So real local. My dad had several connections because my dad had worked in the hardware store industry the entire stretch that we lived in Colorado.
So he was a pastor and bivocational?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So full-time job, full-time pastor. Mm-hmm. And so he was the lumber manager for Ace. And that too.
Shoot.
Father.
Full-time husband.
Yeah. You know.
I like your dad already.
Yeah. And
that's cool.
So he was the lumber manager for the Ace Hardware in Westcliff. Yeah.
Nice.
And so he knew a lot of the contractors. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, son's graduating, this, that, and the other. And so he got me in touch with Aaron Rittering. Mm-hmm. And his dad was the Lutheran pastor.
Okay.
And so him and Wayne Rittering and my dad were really good friends, you know. And so Aaron took a chance on me. And it was him and his younger brother, Andrew. And I always claim Andrew to be the hero. He was just, those guys were instrumental in who I am today. You know, you're so, I feel so blessed in some ways that I got so many different chances that some people, it's like a 1,000,001 chance that you get to have someone like that come into your life and build you up. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, you know, even though you're here and your potential is like here, but they can bring you up to here. You know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, because oh man, the stories. If you get those two in a room to do a podcast with me, that would be way more interesting.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, how much older than you? Or are they quite a bit older than you?
Yeah. So I met them when they were 32.
Okay. So you were just
right out of 2005. So do the math. They're about a good 10 years older.
Now,
than
did you have any skills going into the trades? Or you
just a little bit of just a little bit of mechanical inclination, just a little bit, but nothing. I mean, they were starting from below ground up.
So learning on the job training. Okay,
Very cool.
All right, man.
Yeah,
cool. So how long did you do that?
I did that for about 5 years.
Yeah,
with them.
So you learned a lot.
Yeah,
through a lot.
Yeah, they helped me through a lot more than just that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Do tell.
So, just how to, man, how do I? Well,
so you're
bring that down a little for me.
Okay. So you're
that's way too open ended.
Okay, sure. Are you living with mom and dad still? At
Yeah,
that point? Okay.
I did.
So during that period of time, or
for most of that period of time?
Okay. So you're a young man, really wet behind the ears, trying to figure stuff out.
Absolutely.
You have a job now, though. Are you traveling for work, or is it?
It was local.
Okay.
We did a little traveling. I remember one winter we were pretty slow, and there was another contractor that was slow, and he said, "Hey, I'm building a house for my aunt down in Ulysses." And so we traveled for several months, just built that house down in Ulysses, and stayed in the hotel.
Very cool. Yeah.
Monday through.
So where's
Friday.
your faith at in this period of time?
Well, the funny thing is, Aaron was the youth pastor at the church that I was attending. So there was a period there where I graduated, got my job, still living at home, but there was a period in my life where I was like, I'd always been in the pew listening to my dad. Yeah. Okay. And and my dad was always reminding my brother and I, is like, you cannot make it on my coattails. Your faith has to be your own.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get to heaven on my coattails.
Right.
And so
that's good.
So
absolutely.
I was like, he had instilled that in us, and so I was like, well, okay, so let's try this. So I had went to another church after graduation, and it was the church that Aaron had gone to, and it was a Mennonite church, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so you were on the route.
Well, Aaron,
this was full circle, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So no, it was funny though. It was a Mennonite church, but it wasn't. It was kind of in a transitional period, weird transitional period. And Aaron was also the worship leader. Okay. And he knew I played drums. And he goes, "Hey, dude, we were trying to build a worship band in this church because we're not, we're slowly, moving because Mennonite church. I mean,
yeah, they don't even have lights. Right?
Oh man, yeah, it was hymns. It was hymns, man.
Yeah.
No guitar.
Yeah,
and hers were inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And
oh gosh,
where are we going now?
Sorry,
that was a bad joke.
Yep.
Well, did you hear that joke? It was months ago now. The amen and a woman.
Yeah.
Garbage. Sorry, I really threw a wrench into the.
That's all right. It's okay.
We're off the rails again, folks.
Okay, so we're playing at a Mennonite. Asked to play drums.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had played in dive bars. You name it. And there was nothing more nerve-wracking than walking into a Mennonite church for the drums. I tell you, the stares and the looks that you got were amazing.
No
kidding.
Yeah. It was, talk about like a,
So when you were playing, are you looking out and the people, they're just like.
Boy, you almost couldn't. I mean, it was like, holy. Yeah. But it was so cool over that probably 6-8 year period to see the change and the development in that congregation though. It was like night and day.
What was the reason, or if for their transition?
Well, Dave, the pastor, also a good friend with my dad. He had kind of gone through a period, from my understanding, don't quote me on all this, gone through a period of like real questioning the whole idea behind the way, the Mennonite church had gone about relationship with Christ, and just the way church was kind of the idea of church to them. And so he just, tried to slowly work the church out of that kind of mindset of just this real stoic kind of existence. You know what I mean? And kind of took it more in a spirit-led, so to speak. I mean,
right, sure.
It's spirit-led is, you can take it from going from
Mennonites.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To where does it stop?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
So you're going to church. You're playing the drums there. You introduced this heathenous sort of situation.
The devil beating the drums, man.
Drums. Wow.
No, I'm teasing. Okay, so is this?
Wait, real quick. Drummer in the it's playing in the church for years. What would you say to the individual that because you've probably heard that you shouldn't play drums in a church? Like that started with demonic stuff. They used it to communicate to weird, like, or have you? Or am I making?
I don't know if I've ever encountered that way of thought.
Never mind. We'll move on to the
it's
next.
Okay. Feel free to dig into it though.
Well, I guess what would you say? Because there
are
Church of Christ.
Yeah.
No instruments.
Right.
What would you say to that if someone was like, Anthony, you shouldn't be playing instruments at church? What would you say to that?
Well, David danced naked in the streets, buddy.
Okay.
So let's keep our clothes on.
All right, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I dig your response because
I don't know. I was
feel
like, explain the difference.
Well, yeah. So they're from the outset, their argument's wrong because you'd have to show me a verse where it says, "Do not play instruments." In church.
Well,
so
I mean, that's kind of probably that's an obvious one. But I'm trying to draw like a parallel. I'm going. So you're worried about a drum, but David could dance for the Lord.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I call it a self-righteous doctrine to say we don't have instrument. If you don't want instruments, that's fine. That's a preference. But to say we shouldn't have
it would be. Yeah, it would probably fall more along that line.
Right. If you have the preference, we're okay. All right. Okay. So during this period of time, where's your faith? Where is this when it's starting to get real for you? I mean, as because you're owning it. I mean, you had said, you started going to a church that wasn't under your dad's preaching, which again is not wrong. And in a sense, it seemed like he kind of not pushed you in that direction, but rather to own your own faith. So is that what you were endeavoring to do? Yeah,
that's kind of what I was going with it. I mean, my dad and I still had a great understanding relationship, even amidst that. But yeah, that was it was.
It was good.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't go back and change it.
Now, have we hit a point in your life and in the process of your story here where this is like your lowest spiritual point? Or are we getting there? Or have you ever had one?
Lowest?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know if that's a fair question or not. But
as of late, I would say about 3 years ago, it got kind of low for sure.
So we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. So you spent time. So what? How did these brothers? You said that they had a profound impact, and I guess I'm curious if you could unpack that a little bit as far as.
I think the biggest thing with Aaron and Andrew, contributed a little more to the chilled, laid back aspect of my life, because my dad was so tense, and for good reason, and just the background that he grew up. So it wasn't his fault necessarily. I mean, that's just the way he was raised, and there was always a loud response to something, and Aaron and Andrew brought, for me, a life change in the fact that there's a different way to respond to life situations. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So they brought that aspect into my life, I think, the most.
Okay.
I would say.
Cool.
I remember one time. This I'll never forget this. I remember this. So we were building the house. We were actually building Aaron's house up in the mountains, and we were framing up a particular a fireplace, and something had went wrong. We had missed a measurement, and something was 6 inches too far to the left.
Mm.
And I remember going, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen?" And Aaron stood there, and he goes, "Well, all right." I'm just like, I had never seen that. Yeah, it was just, that's not how, growing up.
Yeah.
I just like, I would have expected throwing the hammer and,
Sure.
Did
Did you guys move it, or did he just? It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Is it no kidding?
Yeah, it is what it is.
Wow.
Okay,
Well.
we're moving on.
No kidding.
Wait. So you kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, so growing up, you may have seen the throwing the hammer or overreacting or.
Well, yeah, but that, to be clear though, that, no one, I can't blame my father for that. He was doing the best that he knew how, and the best he was taught. And, today he would say, yeah, that was, he was what, my age, a little younger, and, there's a lot, I was like, I couldn't imagine, because we still haven't had kids, and I'm just going, like, the pressure that he was probably under, with us, having us so young,
Sure.
and then he's trying to figure out life,
Yeah.
at the same time.
Pastoring,
And then
working a job.
even now, like, so it's even clearer to me now,
Yeah.
I'm looking at how I grew up and I'm going, God almighty, if I don't know if I could have done I know I couldn't have done any better at his age, knowing what I know now, I'm going, holy smokes.
Well, I don't ask that to put your father on blast.
Right.
I just asked to go, okay, so you had one example growing up. Did you absorb that example? Is that how
Absolutely.
you were? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
At first, Aaron and I had a very very defensive, even to just the plain get old horsing around. Like, what do you mean by that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
because Chris describes you as pretty chill.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
well, what do you mean? I always like on tense, on edge, and then they kind of they're like, well, we're just kidding. Bust my balls back, man.
Okay, all right.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool. They taught me so much. It's not even funny.
That's good.
Some things it's just hard to explain in some ways. There.
Now, are you guys still friends? I mean, you still
Absolutely. It's kind of a cool relationship that we all have because there's a group of us. There was a crew of us, and pretty tight knit crew. We did a lot of life together.
Yeah.
And we still get together. Last year we didn't, COVID. Sure. But we Andrew lives in Alabama now.
Okay.
And so Tuscaloosa area on the lake, and so he has a lake house, and so every year we get together for a weekend. A long weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Down there, and we all kind of get together, reconnect.
Wow.
What's going on in your life, and
that's cool, man.
it's kind of a neat
So
deal.
what took you away from doing that?
Doing that. So here we go. Now we're going to kind of jump into the jiu-jitsu, and a little more life shaping. So like when I said, you're kind of fortunate, super blessed to have certain individuals come into your life. And so I was heavy into the music. That was where I was taking my life. At least that's
your focus was.
That's what my focus was.
Okay.
I was going to be a drummer in a band and tour the rest of my life. That's what I was trying to accomplish.
Single guy at this point.
Oh
yeah. Oh, absolutely single.
Yeah.
This was single. Yeah, definitely single. And
Definitely.
definitely, yeah. I was not like dating material at that time in my life. Definitely
So
not.
growing up in high school, no girlfriend.
Nothing serious, nothing crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Right. So during because if I'm tracking right, you're like right out of high school, so 18. So you're like 24, 25.
Ooh, I got married at 24, so this would have been
okay. So early 20s.
Early 20s, yeah.
Okay.
Early
so
20s.
not dating anybody.
19, 20,
okay.
yeah. No,
okay, gotcha.
Definitely
All
not.
right.
Always on the hunt, but I was like the German Shepherd that's chasing a rabbit, and then you get the rabbit, you wouldn't know what to do with it.
Like, I'm just chasing, man. I'm just chasing.
Yeah. Dude, I had no idea.
All right.
So
That's fair.
But music was the chase for it, right?
Absolutely. That was the focus. I was so blinders,
All right.
And so the Lord went poof, like that with them at one point. So chasing music, and then I decided to give it a shot, and so I ended up resigning. I was like, "Hey guys, I ended up moving to Kansas with a friend, and we were going to try and make it happen and live off of nothing, which was
So you were playing in a band?
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah. That's actually how I met my wife too.
Okay.
So
what was the band's name?
it was the Jeremy Landis band.
Okay.
Jeremy Landis
At that point in time.
What kind of music?
So that sounds kind of classy. I'm not gonna lie.
It was so Jeremy Landis was another fella that kind of stepped in my life, and so he had done some internships in Waco with the church that David Crowder was with, and he had done a music internship at that church in Waco with the David Crowder band. So at the time and period, this was probably early 2000s when he had done this, and at that time that church was putting on an internship, and so he had gone down and had done some touring with David Crowder, like as a internship. And so he had some pretty good connections there. So that's the connection we tried to work, and he worked some others. But like I said, that's, harder than it. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Okay, so earlier you had made a statement about who you know and all that kind of stuff. So there you have some experience in terms of what that looks like, right?
In terms of like,
well, it's not
meeting
necessarily
the right
the amount of
people.
talent, but sometimes timing and who you know is
sure.
really more important. So, okay, that's good. I mean,
Well, back up real quick. So you kind of put in. You resigned from your job to say, "Hey, I am stopping. I'm going to pursue this." How did that go? Easy?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. I don't think they were really surprised.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not surprised.
You said you still stay in touch, so.
Oh yeah.
So it worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we were still, it was still in the same community. So it was short lived. So we ended up moving, and it wasn't but maybe 3 weeks. And boy, I came crawling back with my tail between my legs. Yeah,
really
it was like,
but in that period of time, you met your bride.
no.
Okay.
No.
Right, sorry.
I had already met her, so there was that already.
Okay.
Tension there. Like, okay, so you're not, you can imagine. So we were dating at that time,
But are you thinking wife, or are you I'm just
absolutely, because it was not. But after that, it tanked. I think it was 2 weeks later I proposed to her.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah. So, and so I come back, and Aaron.
And where did you meet her? I'm sorry.
So, Lakeview Camp, up there in Stockton.
Okay.
So we were kind of traveling the Kansas, Colorado area, doing some church camps, and we were just leading the worship for that church camp, and that's how I met her. She was interning with the Methodist Church out of Plainville.
Okay.
And through her church, because she went to the Celebration Church over in Hayes.
Okay.
And they had a college ministry there. So when she was going to Fort Hays State, so that's kind of how that whole thing happened.
She's this really good looking drummer. She says,
I don't know. You'll have to. Yeah, that's the story for a different day.
All right.
Did you say she was more attracted to your talent or your looks?
Yeah. Could you answer that?
That's another story. That's a different story. That's going to probably be neither of those. Probably.
She's like, I didn't even know he was a drummer.
What do you think he was doing?
She definitely knew I was that for sure.
Right.
But so.
Okay, so that falls through, but you make
through.
that connection.
Yeah.
With her, and so at this point there's cell phones. So I assume.
Yeah, cell phones. Yeah. So email.
So, and then that's a 3. So you didn't even know her that long before you proposed. Is that right? Or am I?
No. So we had been dating for a little over a year when I proposed to her.
Okay.
So you were before you decided, hey,
I was touring before that. Yeah. All Summer stuff. Right. Still working my job, so it was like weekend tours.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were like doing a lot of juggling, and then you said,
and then we're gonna try for it. We're gonna commit and.
Boom. All right.
Okay.
No
so
plan.
That flops.
Yeah.
You go back.
Nothing new. It's everybody's story.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone just
Okay. So you go back. You get your job, and then where is she living at that time?
She had actually moved to Colorado to be closer to me at that time, and then I moved to Kansas.
Oh man!
So she's always on my rear about that. She's like, "I moved to Colorado, and you moved right to Kansas," because she lived in Kansas. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I came back, and then she moved back to Kansas because her job fell through in Colorado.
Just like
I said, okay, all right. So that's it. So I went and said, okay, we're doing this together. And
so how long were you engaged before you got married?
It was probably a period of 4 months, 4 or 5 months, something like that. It's not terribly
So get married
long.
and then
Get
where do
married.
you guys land?
So I come back crawling with my tail between my legs, and Aaron and Andrew were looking at it, and it was gonna be a slow winter, and they're like, man, I don't think we can, because winters were pretty slow up there. Small town, the economy was not.
Okay.
You were gonna either be a contractor or work at the hardware store. It was a touristy town. So the economy was basically built on tourism, and then it was a retirement community. So the only economy that you had to survive if you were going to stay is you were going to be a contractor of some sort, whether it was a framer, electrician, etc., plumber.
Okay.
So it was looking pretty slow that winter, and they're like, man, I don't know if we can take you back on. It just wouldn't, work out. And I'm like, oh, crap. So and I'm like, all right, well, that's okay. So crawled back and then did some calling. My brother, so have you ever heard of Dave Reaver at all? Okay.
That name sounds familiar.
He was a Vietnam War vet. Okay. And then he did a lot of evangelizing in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and still does today. And so a big military guy. And so he had moved to town and bought a ranch out in the country and had a heart for veterans. Because at this time and point, we're heavy into, I believe we were even moving into Afghanistan at this point, I think, I think, at that time period. And so my brother had gotten a job out there as a ranch hand. And so the Reaver Evangelistic Association, it was an Eagle Summit Ranch was the location. And they had done a program for wounded vets. And we mainly dealt with Fort Carson, the WTU out of Fort Carson, Colorado Springs. And so WTU, short for Warrior Transition Unit. So what happens is either they're coming off deployment and at the end of their time, or they were just coming off of just the end of their time. And so that unit was basically there to help them transition back into civilian life, get them kind of out of the military and get into the civilian sector. And so we got connected with them, or the organization did. And so that's what they did. And so my brother had worked there and heard that I was out of a job, and they had needed help because things were ramping up. They were doing a lot of stuff out there. And so he talked to him. He's like, hey, my brother needs some work. And so I went in and talked with, John T. Gaither was his name. He was a good old boy out of Huntsville, Alabama, retired fella. I believe at that time he was in his mid-50s. And he had worked for the city of Huntsville. Incredible story how he came to Christ. And so that right there is where I feel like the most blessed individual in the world to come into contact with him, because he was so instrumental in, my personal growth as an individual in so many different ways. I mean, it was.
Now, why?
It's hard to pinpoint that. Why?
Why?
I don't know if I understand the why.
Why was he so instrumental? How was he so?
Okay, so we can get.
What was the motivator?
So the motivation was he had a big heart for younger individuals. He just had a way with people, and it was just so natural for him to just kind of take you under his wing and just explain life to you. For me, that was a big thing. I'm in my early 20s, just married. So at that point, when I took the job, we were just about a month away from being married. And then, we ended up living on site because they needed someone to live on the ranch to take care of it. And so that's the job I ended up landing. And then they had another ranch in Texas, so they needed someone else to do that. So my brother's like, oh, shoot, I'll go to Texas. And so that's how that opened up the door for me to get that job there. And so John had just kind of taken me through his, under his wing and just taught me so much about life, how to deal with people, how to use my hands. He taught me so much about just, 90% of it is just being willing. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
90% is, is just being willing to try it.
Yeah.
You
that's
know,
cool.
and that was one thing he always tell me. So I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
No, I guess maybe I should have asked this a few moments ago, but after the going full on into music, that didn't work out. What did that do to your heart?
Well, that was tough, definitely, because I had a big passion for it, and I really enjoyed music.
And I assume you're playing at these camps, so it's a Christian.
Yes, correct.
Or rooted band.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. And so it was hard. It took a few years to kind of get over that. Like I was just like, man, why, God? Like
and in that few year period that you were working at this ranch.
At the ranch, and then so that's when the Lord kind of, kind of opened up these blinders on me and said, there's a different purpose for your life. Like I know you really wanted that, but I gave you that skill for a purpose, and I still use it today to edify the body of Christ in a certain manner.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
but he said, that's not your full-time purpose in life.
Fair enough.
And so, and then we kind of folded into this kind of direction, and he definitely used John to definitely open up those doors in my life.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you're working, you're doing all the things that they need to do. He's taking you under his wing. What is that? What does everyday life look like for you out there? Because and the reason that for the listener, the reason that I'm asking, and because this is a huge part of your story, yes.
Oh God, yeah,
right.
for sure.
So that's why. So that's why.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What does that look like?
What does it look like? Yeah. So, well, kind of back to the analogy of the German Shepherd getting the rabbit, and not knowing what to do with it. So it's just like a whole new world's opened up to me, and a whole new, John T. Gaither was just kind of this different personality that I had never come into contact with.
Is that how he introduced himself?
Oh yeah, hi, John T. Gaither.
John T. Gaither.
And just with that real thick Southern accent, he's just this big old boy with a white beard, old fella, just not worked up about nothing. Nothing's gonna surprise John. It's if you knew him and his story, and definitely got to know him and his story and growing up and just how he lived life, how he was raised, and then how the Lord saved him in his 50s.
Wow.
He didn't come to the Lord until after he resigned and retired, or didn't resign, retired from the city of Huntsville.
Wow.
And how different people in his life didn't give up on him, and how he came to know the Lord.
Wow.
It was amazing. It's a story that's a whole different. You got to have him on here.
Joseph's dad, he was in his 60s.
Let's see, 2014 or 15. So 7 years ago, and he's 72. So 65.
60s.
Yeah. So
in his 60s.
Yeah.
And when it was funny when you were talking about the hammers thrown and all this and that. I wanted to bring up this story, but it's cool, man, because Joseph actually got to has watched this process of this man. Went to Vietnam, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Man. We've actually had him on the podcast, so he is a phenomenal story.
And the listeners should go back and check it out because, and if I'm being honest, that is who I think of when you were like, I saw like hammers being thrown and stuff, and my dad will tell you like, that's just how he communicated. That's just how he was, right?
Yeah.
In his mind, it's not right or wrong.
Right.
I just explode because I'm mad, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
And to go from us not being friends. I mean, I didn't describe us as friends. We were father and son. To now, like he's one of my best friends. Like,
Right.
I absolutely adore the past few years where we got to work with each other and talk about Christ all day.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome stuff. So that. Side note.
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, absolutely. That sums that up perfectly.
So
even
how
in my own
else
life.
did working on the ranch, how else did that shape and mold and cultivate in you, the man that you are today?
Yeah, so, it was, like I said, it was just kind of a new personality that I'd never come into contact with before ever. And it was just so intriguing, and I'm going, wow. And, somebody that how do I say this? I'm trying to put these thoughts together here. So, you rarely go through life, like I said, where you can say, like, I probably had two dads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what John was to me. He was another dad to me.
Wow.
You know, not to take the place of my dad.
Sure.
Definitely not.
I get it.
Don't get me wrong there, but John was another, you know, where I could you just don't come across that ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was so blessed to have that.
Yeah.
And
that's cool, man.
so, you know, struggling through just certain everyday struggles of just like the work atmosphere and just the, you know, the confrontations and how to deal with the different work relationships that, you know, were going on and dynamics. And John can be like, son, yeah. No one's made it. He would always go, you know, I would screw up or do something stupid, you know, and he goes, son, no one's ever made a fool of himself more than me. You know,
all right.
It's all right. You learn from it, and you need to move forward and try this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
And so
really cool.
have 6 years of that close relationship.
Absolutely.
You know, day in and day out.
Right.
I mean,
very cool.
Very cool. God Almighty, I wouldn't. You know, I was so blessed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So, during this period of time, are you interacting with the vets? Or are you more just maintaining the facility?
It was so I was, you know, facilities maintenance, and so it came from anything from brush hogging with the tractors to weed eating to fixing the vehicles. I mean, John taught me so much about mechanics. So we had a fleet of vehicles like you wouldn't believe, trailers. So, you know, it was, you know, fixing vehicles, oil changes, you know.
You're like a very well-rounded guy.
I don't know if I would call that.
Yeah.
What's that?
In the trades, yeah.
That's cool.
So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, but
I feel like we need more men like that. To be honest, and I mean that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole different conversation
for sure. But you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like,
but yeah,
it is
I agree.
So undervalued. It seems so undervalued.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, to be handy, to be able to have a understanding of how things work in general, or how to construct.
Man, absolutely.
That's cool stuff. So
So that was basically job time. So like even during the program was a week-long program, and so there was periods of time where you didn't have you know, soldiers, you know, there because you had to reset and just you know, schedules and all that kind of stuff. But it was a week long, so it was a Monday through a Friday.
Yeah,
they were there, and those were like 6 to 10 o'clock at night, hour days, and then you were on call all night. So
and is that happened. Because you're taking care of their needs, or why is
well, just the maintenance side of it. Something breaks, toilet plug, you know, anything, you know. And so it's just basically a youth camp day kind of atmosphere. You know what I mean? So and then and then John and I were, you know, we did all the fun things with the soldiers, so to speak. You know, there was class times, and they had professionals and stuff that dealt with the head game of everything that these guys were going through. It was anywhere from, you know, any branch of the military was there. It wasn't just Army, so John and I got to do all the cool things with the guys. We were doing the 4-wheeler rides in the mountains, horseback rides. Wow. We had a shooting range. So if the WTU cleared them, you know, it depended on the group of guys that came. If they were psychologically cleared to deal with weapons, then we that was also an activity that we did with them, and it was cool. I mean the stories. You learn pretty quick, you know, that what your place was with the military, because the military has kind of a entire different world and way of thinking, you know, when it comes between what they've been through and then you're just a civilian. Right. You know what I mean? Sure. And so you definitely didn't. I'd never really interacted much on the, you know, you could do small talk, but, you know, you never engaged in any type of conversation that, you know, was going to go deep into their personal, what they went through in you know, in the field. But it didn't negate the fact that I didn't get to hear it, though, because those guys, all they didn't want someone to talk to them. They just wanted someone to talk to. A lot of those guys. And so, you know, a lot of times I was just an ear, you know, just sit there and listen to these guys, and they just wanted to talk. That's all they wanted to do. Sure. It just something to get. I guess it had a psychological effect on their mind. Just that was a big part of the program. At the end on the Friday, the whole community came in. I think we would pack that barbecue out with like 200 people, the surrounding community, rural community, and then they would do a 5-minute speech. So they would get up and talk about what they've been through, what they've been going through that week, and their history. You know. And that was part of the program to help them kind of work through their PTSD, was the public speaking aspect.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I was just an ear to those guys.
Well, cool.
And
what
it
a
was
blessing, right? I mean,
it was,
that's awesome.
it was, I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Now, do you have like a particular fondness to guys that, or men and women who have served?
Oh yeah, no greater
I mean,
respect. I mean that right there, that whole time period of my life, in that vocation, it definitely deepened a sense of like gratitude and respect for the men and women in the armed forces.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, for sure, because I mean the things that they sacrificed are just unimaginable.
Right.
You know.
Sure.
For some of those individuals, I mean, they sacrificed family.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
I cannot. I mean, obviously, you hear stories.
Yeah.
Man.
But I just like, what do you say?
Be an ear. I like that. I feel like that's cool because that's that super practical piece, and right in a sense of it's not, because I think that because I wanted to ask you, and I think I will at some point, but you talk about like, man, music, I thought that was my purpose in life, and it's not, my follow up initially, but not. I feel like we're getting there is like, what's your purpose, or how do you know? And I feel like it's so easy for people, and I would say, and I guess just speaking to men, it's easy to minimize purpose or to like, what the heck is it? And I feel like, we've talked about this from time to time, but it's like, that's something that I have no fargan clue, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
But at the same time, I think making the most of those opportunities. And what I hear you say in this regard is that, like, to be that ear, like, you have no idea what the impact that you did have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and again, that's not even your motivation.
No, but
what a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So
it was,
right on, man.
Yeah, because for me, it was like I was going to be doing something great. I was going to be, a drummer.
Yeah.
At early 20s, that's where my head was, and it's just like, so sometimes I think, like, to your comment, like, you try to minimize it, or maybe I think sometimes when it comes to purpose, especially with this my generation and even the younger generation, this whole idea of purpose in life is so maximized, though. They want to, it's so inflated, even with the social media aspect of it. Yeah. Everybody's a legend in their own mind.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I think sometimes, the fallacy there is, you're trying to over maximize what your impact is, in your own mind, and your what you're trying to accomplish in life. And it's just like, well, wait a minute here.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so
I don't know. I'm with you. It seems like we can get so focused on the, like, what's big and like, what am I doing? But like, you could be, not probably, but you could be missing literally what's right in front of your face. Like, you're given something right now. Right. I don't care where you are in your life, as a man, as a woman, there's something in front of you right now you can serve, you can do.
Yeah.
So this is when we're getting into, like, your Junichi warrior, Jedi master.
Well, that's, I never would have came in contact with it if it wouldn't have been for, being rerouted into this lane of life. The Lord, definitely rerouted me into this lane, and
which honestly, it sounds really cool, dude. I mean,
you
know what I'm saying, right? Am I right?
Oh yeah, like
it was.
But second dad, like, wow.
Right. So as that's going on, are you sitting around, in your head, you're trying to sleep at night? Are you going, man, what am I doing? Or are you at peace with where you're at right now?
So the first couple years, no, definitely not, because I was still having that internal struggle with wanting to be a musician,
Gotcha.
right? So there's that still.
Were you like, hey, I think we could set up a band?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Right, guys?
But the Lord in that time period is still peeling back the blinders, going, look, wait a minute, time out, and so there was definitely some hardships, like some hard lessons learned during that time, and there was definitely more people that were instrumental. Also a part of the organization, Dave Reaver Evangelistic Association, in that growth period, for sure.
Now, you speak of hardship. Okay, how did that have any impact? Because you're newlywed.
Yes, absolutely.
So how and did that impact, or how did it impact?
It was just, there was definitely some strain on marriage there for sure.
Okay.
Definitely, and then just learning how to live. You just like to be married and just trying to figure out life together.
Yeah,
like
sure.
what are we doing?
Right.
And so. And then just for me, I think one of the biggest things was a respect. For me, was something that I think the Lord really hammered hard on me during that time period working at Reaver Evangelistic Association at the Eagle Summer. Just like respect, like learning to respect authority. Okay. Because as a musician, you do technically, there's a stigmatism that comes with some musicians too, like a lack of respect. I was big into punk rock. Okay. So the respect wasn't there. It's like, know what I mean? So it was like, okay, time out.
I have to respect this?
Yeah. So there was a respect for authority was definitely learned.
Okay.
During that time period of my life. And John was very instrumental in that too.
And do you have a story of what that might look like? Or
boy, I don't know. I have to think about that for a minute. Yeah,
okay.
I just there is and John, for the most part, he could be pretty stern, but very gentle with it. Yeah. He wouldn't get too worked up about things. But there was a couple times where he sat me down and so I'd be venting to him at some point. I just that burned this person,
Right.
And I'd be talking and he'd be trying to say something and he'd go, "Son, I'm talking right now." And I'm like, "Oh crap." And because I had such a respect for him too, it was just like, "Oh, shoot.
Right.
All right, I got it. All right, I see what you're saying.
All right.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Whoops."
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Yeah. And so, God, yeah, just some.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Because I feel like men like that are like, those are guys that I want to be like, right? In a sense, and how in the world do you get there? And there are absolutely no shortcuts. None.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you talk about respect, like in a sense of like that was learned. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that growing up in the house you grew up in, and I don't know your situation, but obviously you respected your dad, right? And it sounds like a very respectable man, for sure. But with some of this stuff, you got to kind of learn the hard way.
Yeah.
So
there were some hard knocks.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So jiu-jitsu, man.
Yeah.
What did that look like? How in the world did you get into that?
I think this was about year 2, give or take, year 3. And so we're dealing with a lot of different branches of the military. And so I remember one particular session, they call it a session. It was a week-long session. And this particular session was a couples session. It was and I believe it was on Valentine's Day. It was in February. So they would they would pick particular military couples that were, had particular, stories or backgrounds or whatnot, and people that they had come into contact throughout their, going around the country, and contacts. And so I ran into Chad and Kathy Robichaux. They had attended this particular session, and so the buzz was that he was an MMA fighter, and of course he was Marine Force Recon, And so the buzz was, man, we got a UFC cage fighter at the
And
the
is this
session
amongst the staff or?
Yeah.
Okay,
John,
okay.
and
Yeah.
this guy's a real deal. And I'm like, oh man, what, cool. He was, he did a couple fights in the UFC, but it was a WSFO champion, World Series of Fighting, world champion. And I believe a legacy belt holder too. I'm going to try and get all these facts right. I'm sorry. If I'm talking about any particular person, I'm trying to get the facts.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Right. If I embellish something, it's not on purpose. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. So if anyone, but I'm almost certain those were
Easy
the
fact
credentials. I believe those were the credentials. I'm pretty sure that
he was a bad
right.
mamma jamma.
But that too, and so everyone's just like, there's this big buzz at the ranch. Oh man. And come to find out, and so met Chad, and then he came through the program, and then just had a real heart for the faith-based program that we were doing with soldiers, because he had come through a lot. Mm-hmm. If you hear Chad's, you can go anywhere online and you can hear Chad's story. Mm-hmm. And just the battle he went through with PTSD and just what he had gone through, and his family. Right. And so just had a big heart for what we were doing. And so for a time period, he had actually worked with us. He became an employee and kind of learned the ropes. And then he's obviously very successful in what he's doing now and continues to run his own organization at this time.
That's the Mighty Oaks, right?
Yes, correct. And helps soldiers all over the country and in the world. He's been in Ukraine, in and out of Ukraine the last 2 months. And so got to meet him. So at the time period, he was in Colorado. He opened up a gym in Westcliff. Okay. And he was with the Gracie Baja franchise under Carlos Jr. And so he had...
No, Westcliff, if I understand, is it a small community?
Oh, super small. Brewster, Brewster.
So, but he still opened this gym up there.
Yeah, because it was a part of the program. So what he did is he had brought soldiers in for an extended period of time. He did a lengthier period. I think it was like a 6 month at a time. Okay. And so Jiu Jitsu was part of the curriculum that he was working through with these soldiers, in amongst many other aspects. That he had brought. And so had this gym, and so it was open to the community as well. And so all the while I'm there, he's like, hey man, you ought to come check this out. Come roll with the guys one evening. And these are all like military guys. Right. I mean, just jack dudes, and and they're all blue belts and up. You might be able to relate to, and I'm this guy, a little farm boy. I don't know anything. I've never wrestled.
How many times did he ask you?
Oh, a handful of times. Yeah.
No kidding. You're like,
I'm like, oh man, I don't know. And so finally one night, my wife's like, "What? We were in town. Why don't we roll on by and just check it out?"
Oh, the wife said,
"Oh man, get out!
Come on, all right, let's go see what this is about." So I go in, and class was kind of almost like ending at that point. So I kind of missed the class, and so some of the other guys are friendly dudes, but I'm walking in, I'm like, man, I don't know, these military guys, and I'm like, man, I don't, right, intimidating, and so those one of the guys, come on out here, and I'm in my jeans, and let's just roll for a little bit. So I'm out there, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and this guy, and finally he gets me in some type of submission. I don't even know what it is because I don't know anything, and and my wife's standing there watching.
Watching you get manhandled,
recording.
Stop recording.
And the poor, I forget the guy's name. I'll have to ask Chad because I can't remember this fella's name. But I can see him in my mind, and he's like, "Man, I kind of feel like a jerk. I just kind of like." Just taking you to town in front of your wife, and I'm like, that's all right. I'm okay. I don't know what's going on.
You're like, babe, I love it.
This is great.
Keep going.
Yeah. And so I kind of got involved with that gym there, and that's how I started learning. And it just attended that.
So your first experience was that, and you were like, I'm gonna go back.
Got to do more of that.
Yeah, I want to check this out. I want to learn it. Okay, and so I got a gi and and went in, and there was a couple other guys that were there. I think it was another local contractor that I knew that was going, so I knew him. And then, so yeah, just did that, and that's how I got introduced to it. So Chad, hopefully, I can get him to come out here and teach a class at some point.
And that'd be cool.
And
now, I do have a question, and this is based on a private conversation that you and I had.
Yeah.
We were talking about like different types of gyms.
Okay, yeah,
or
sure.
Sort of the mentality, kind of. What was the mentality of that gym, right? I mean, because you're talking about like these guys, these are vets, so there is a level of intensity that they might just naturally have because
sure,
of
yeah,
vet,
absolutely.
but obviously this is a part of the program. So what? How would you categorize that?
Yeah, so it was. So Chad came from a very competition background,
Right? Sure.
A cage fighter, and he came from the Carlos Gracie Jr. Gracie Baja franchise, which is a huge, competition association, responsible for the IBJJF, I believe.
Okay.
And that side of the family is, I think it was Horon actually, which is the Gracie Academy. So it's not the same franchise, but so yeah, it was very, it was a very competitive, competition based sport, jiu-jitsu for sure.
Okay.
Definitely. I don't know. It'd be hard to find. And I might be wrong on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. But if it comes to a more self-defense oriented introduction into jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna say, and I may be wrong, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Gracie Academy is going to probably be with Horon, Henner, and Huron. They're going to be the ones responsible for that aspect in the jiu-jitsu community.
Okay.
At large. Gracie Baja does have, some curriculums and that are probably catered more towards your competition, but they also, Gracie Baja that I know, in taking some classes with them online, they also they balance that very well as opposed to other gyms that are just strictly just a come smash them in competition type of atmosphere.
Right.
Gracie Baja does a very good job of balancing your sport jiu-jitsu and just the average Joe 9 to 5 wants to come in and train it because he just likes it.
Sure.
It probably won't ever go step on foot on a competition mat.
Okay, so how often are you doing jiu-jitsu once you kind of buy in and
2 times a week.
Okay.
And I believe that was the only class times for that gym that he had available.
Sure. So you're doing that for a while. How long? So you got your blue belt. What was that like? Was that cool? Because I assume that came from Chad. I mean,
Chad was the professor responsible for getting me my blue belt and up to my 3rd stripe, I believe, at that time period. On my blue belt.
What was
in that
like?
Journey?
Because I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I get excited, when on the occasion where people are getting their stripes, and I feel like you do a great job as a school. To be honest, I feel like I love the way that you're like family and to like it is very, and I don't know if maybe it's normal, but like just the congratulatory, like we're excited as a unit for someone to get promoted or I don't know, is a stripe a stripe?
Right, correct. Yeah, okay. Correct. Yeah. It's a
so
promotion.
We are excited about that, and I feel like that's cool. So what was that like, man?
It was neat. I'd never experienced anything that in my life. When I say neat, maybe that's the wrong, I mean, it was cool. I mean, I was like, I'd never been exposed to this. Like, again, at that time period, I'm just like being exposed to things I've never been exposed to before, being growing up in the country like that. If you understand, you could probably relate here.
Sure.
You don't get, a lot of these different types of people and interactions with different types of people
Right.
and different things. And so I'm just like, everything is so new to me. And I'm just like sensory overload. Like, I don't even know what to do with it. In some aspects, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And I was, it was crazy because, at that time, they had moved locations and moved back to Texas.
Okay.
And so the gym basically got handed off to another blue belt. There was another fellow, Tyler Stein was his name. And he was another contractor in the Valley. And he was a blue belt and of course ranked, above myself. So he naturally took the reins and kept the gym going. And so he kept it going for maybe a month. And then he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Anthony, I got something to tell you." He says, "My family and I, we got an opportunity. We're going to move to Denver." I'm like, says, "Would you like to keep this going? Do you want to do it?" I said, Chad really would like you to do that. So Chad calls me up and, "Hey, you should keep going." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know." I was like, "I barely know what I'm doing. I'm just a newly promoted blue belt, imagine." And I'm like, "Gosh, I don't know."
So for the listeners and me, I don't know what that means.
Okay,
how do you
we're kind of getting into deep water.
Man.
Well,
I'm excited to learn.
I'm actually,
too.
I don't care for listeners. I'm asking. I don't know what that means. What does it take to get to blue?
So and not very much. You can, and it depends on the. I keep saying association, but it's like
I don't
a
know
franchise.
the order of the belts or anything anyway. So I should admit that.
And so it varies from gyms, but typically your white belt takes you about a year and 6 months, give or take, if you're training on a consistent basis.
Okay.
2 times a week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and you know what I mean.
And so,
because is there not like hey, you need to know these moves?
That's what I'm trying to ask. What do I have to do to get the belt?
And that also varies from curriculums and philosophies within different franchises.
Okay.
But by and large, it's anywhere between 1 and 2 maybe. There's some franchises I know, like an Easton Mall gym. I have one of their white belts going to my gym in Colby. Rick is his name.
What is
It's Easton Mall. It's just a gym over in Denver that he comes out and I believe he's an ERPA in Colby. Okay. And so he's super stoked. There's jiu-jitsu anyway.
Yeah.
So he comes and he's been at it for 2 years and hasn't got his blue belt yet. So they usually hold their, and I've run into quite a them. So when I was training in Colorado pretty heavy and going to competitions and stuff, I'd run into a lot of their guys at the competitions. And, I'd run into a lot of their white belts. Man, I've been like a white belt for like 2.5 years. And I'm like,
are they bad dudes?
Holy crap. They're bad, but it's almost like a sandbag. You understand the term sandbag?
Yeah.
So they they're flirting with that line in some respects.
Oh, because they really should be blue belts.
Probably.
They're competing
and so when they get to
belts.
blue belt, they're like on the cusp of like maybe possibly being like a super good blue belt and then pretty much purple belt.
Wow. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's just like, but that's all subjective too.
Sure.
So you could get a totally different opinion from somebody else.
Sure.
That's
Fair.
just
Fair.
what I encountered in just my perception of it.
Okay.
So, and that's pretty typical of a competition, real heavy competition based gym. They will sandbag. That's not out of the realm because they want their guys to do good at competition.
Right, that makes sense.
It looks good for their gym and that whole game. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's fair.
So where were we going with that?
Okay,
Because
so
we went
you were
way
blue.
off the rails.
You're asked
blue.
to run over or take over?
Yeah, take over. And so they had a kids class too. So they had like a pretty sizable kids class. And I'm like, I don't know how to teach kids. Like, what do you, I was like, I don't know, man. I told them, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And so I reluctantly agreed. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then Chad, was super supportive. Like he had a gym down in Magnolia, Texas. Mm-hmm. And so, we were super tied in with their crew down there. They would send us stuff if we needed it. And Chad, he sent me this, it was a coaching class. So Gracie Baja franchise, for you, in order to teach somebody at their gym or be a coach, so to speak, They sent you through a certification course that they put together very meticulously with very specific guidelines and bullet points and ways to go about how you talk to people and treat people and how you interact with people and how to, and the biggest thing I took away from it is how to, what their franchise was really big on, and I already hit it already a couple times, was the difference how to balance your sport and jiu-jitsu and your competitors, the guys that are super athletic. They come in and they're, you know, they're athletic. And then you have someone maybe like me, you know what I mean? Not a big athlete, comes in, wants to train it. Maybe he's in his 40s, has never done it before, and wants to come in and learn it and just have fun with it.
Sure.
And so it was a really cool curriculum, and they still have more updated ones and stuff, but which it's all was super. I was going through this. It was like a 6-month course.
Oh, dang.
I was going through this. Yeah. So I'd spend an hour or two an evening for 6 months. And there's specific tests. So you got tested too. So I was jotting down notes and everything. Yeah. And you took a test at the end, and just so they would figure out if you were actually comprehending this.
Man, that's like, I don't know if I'm taking the bronze card for like wrestling, USA Wrestling.
Yeah, sure,
Good grief.
Right?
It's the same thing,
yeah,
man. Like,
yeah.
Well, it didn't take 6 months, but gee, like the test and.
But I mean, I was super grateful for that because like a lot of this stuff I was listening to, and I'm like, I never would have thought of that. Okay. There's no way. You know, I was like, definitely it was a leg up for me.
Cool. So how long did you do that?
Okay, so like when you say do that, like coach there in Colorado, it was like 3 years, give or take, 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And
so you learned to love it?
Oh, absolutely. I just loved the interaction with people. I loved like kind of making it like a family. Like when you come in, like we're engaging. So you think about it, like we're engaging on like this super, I don't know, intimate's probably not the right word, but you know, you're engaging in an activity where you are sharing a lot, whether you know it or not.
Right.
And you're dealing with a huge amount of trust. Sure. You know what I mean?
And you're still serving vets there as well during this?
I at that time period, no, there was no vets coming at the time that I took the gym over. It was mainly just the general public. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Keep going. Give me some.
So you do that for 3 years, and then what?
And so again,
and I assume you're working at the ranch during this period.
Yes, well. I worked at the ranch, and then the Lord again kind of went, okay, boop, and my folks ended up retiring. My dad ended up retiring at the church, and they were like, well, we're gonna move back to PA, and I was like, what? Really? Okay. Like, you guys should come now. You guys want to come to PA? I was like, no.
Because you not want to go back to essentially the same town, right?
What do you mean, the same town?
No. Wycliffe?
Westcliff?
Westcliff, I'm sorry. Is that the same town you grew up in?
Yeah.
So you were working outside of or in the same community?
Right, yeah, the same county.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. The ranch was out in the,
Sure. I got you. So, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. And so, and then, circumstances had their way and I was resistive to it. And that was my response. No, not going to Pennsylvania. Why would I do that?
Right.
I was like,
because in a sense, you kind of got it made, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were, it was a good job and then a fantastic job. And, had the gym going and I was, following that path. And then the Lord went, boop. And then I remember that day and I called up my dad and I said, well, I guess we're coming with you.
Is that right? What did that look like?
It was a nudging out of the nest. The sessions started to get a little further and few between. The war was coming. We had essentially ended the the conflict over in
Oh,
Afghanistan at large.
Yeah.
And so the WTU closed down, and so there wasn't a whole lot of activity, and so they had not seen a need for so much upkeep. The particular what do you want to call it, supervisors of the ranch just were like, I don't think we need as much help out here now. And so I'm like, oh,
okay, so that's okay.
So I was like, yeah, okay. So that was the Lord's way of saying, like, yeah, you're moving to PA.
All right.
Because I had tried to get several jobs there and just nothing was happening. And so I ended up getting a commercial electrical job on the East Coast.
Okay.
And, pursued that for a while. And that was a different lifestyle back there. Now, boy, I tell you what.
Because it's thick, right?
Yeah, thick. I mean, yeah. And just oh, man, just fast. There's just no time for nothing. Just no time for nothing.
So what took your parents back out there?
Well, okay, so that's where my mom's family lives in PA. So we moved. They moved back to the same town.
Okay.
To be closer with family, and then there was a church that they were associated with, and so they went back to be a part of that ministry. And of course, grandparents were there, and then of course my dad's parents live in upstate New York. So that was a big deciding factor there.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
So how long did you spend out there?
2 years. It was 2 years. We moved back there 17. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, it was the end of 15.
Okay.
And then we moved here end of 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you moved here from Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
And we actually talked, and
that's right.
You did an interview
Yeah.
with the city, and I was like, what?
Oh, no kidding.
So I interviewed for his job.
Yeah.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had seen the opening. I believe my wife's folks had seen it. Oh, you should, I hear good things about the city job. And I was an electrician, so I was like, well, they needed a power plant operator. I'm like, well, I'll apply for it. And
yeah. If I would have seen you, then I probably would have like, okay. Well,
why am I bothering?
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, but I feel like, in hindsight, obviously, man, things have worked out very well. So you have been here for several years. Why start Jiu Jitsu here?
Yeah, so like that's yeah. So, moved here and then had a just awesome time working over in Colby. And
was that sarcasm?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
okay, fair. All right.
Yeah, so that was a low point for sure.
Okay.
Definitely a low point. And that could be a whole other episode in
Where was
itself.
that at, or do you care to say?
We'll skip over that.
That's fine.
We'll just call it a low point. We'll just skip over it.
Fair enough.
It has nothing to do with the town of Colby, but
sure.
Okay. Yeah, but just so but because that was a different thing I noticed here, and I guess I probably should have realized that, but I didn't realize how much differences there are between the towns here when I first moved here. Like, you have Colby and you have Goodland and you have, other towns, and how they the way they interact is so different.
Colby and Goodland hate each other.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference.
I mean, we can just say that.
Yeah,
it's
yeah. So that was,
I think that
I was navigating
right?
that too, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So, and then
because you just opened another. Is it?
I did.
Is it a school?
Yeah,
or,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, another
at the
school
CrossFit
in the
gym.
Opposing town.
And no issues. So.
And we hope it goes well, but we
Right.
hope also that they're never as good as we are.
Right. Sure.
So,
You never know.
just
two things at the same time.
Yeah, two things, but at
want
the same
that to
time.
go very well for you.
Yeah. So, but there's one in the same gym, so
Sure.
there's not going to be much,
Well,
Anyway,
I mean, there might.
I'm going to handle it differently.
Well, you know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. Okay, so
Family.
So you've why start jujitsu?
So rough patch, low spot, and then my wife was working at Goodland Region Medical at the time, and so they had just gotten a new supervisor that had moved down from Nebraska, and Kent Butts, super cool guy. Another one of those guys that taught me a lot, just in the field of maintenance, because I'd previously been in maintenance, but, I was coming out of being an electrical contractor for about 4 years. And so So
you're working at the hospital?
I'm working at the hospital.
Okay.
So I get a job. My wife's like, I was going through, I'm like, I don't know. I really like the electrical field, but was hating it at the same time. Not the electrical field itself, but yeah. So, and she goes, why don't you, there's a guy that's resigning. Why don't you just put your application in? I was like, I don't know. And then one point during the day, something happened. I called my wife. I said, put it in. I was like, just put it in. I'll do it. Well, let's just see what happens. And so sure enough, they called me in for an interview, hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, cool.
See, I told you, if I would have saw you, that would have happened.
It changed everything.
You have a presence, man.
Well, it was tough trying to find doing interviews over the phone.
Sure.
That was super tough.
Yeah.
And then finally got someone willing to take a chance on me, and then that didn't go well. But so working at the hospital, learned some cool things, and then ran into Connie Joe. And Connie Joe was like, my wife was like, she runs a Taekwondo gym. She did the same thing we did in Colorado. That's so cool. And I'm like, oh, right on. And she wants to learn Jiu Jitsu. I'm like, I don't know. As at the time, I just wasn't mentally there for it. I'm trying to recover from a few things. There was a lot of mental things I was struggling through. And so I was like, yeah, I don't know. I said, for 2 years, she just and finally I was like, okay, I'll come in, do like a private with her. She got me in there. I did a few things with her, and she said, oh, this is so cool. You should do it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to really dive into this right now. And finally, she started talking to me. I'd quit at the hospital. I'd resigned respectfully because I had been working part-time for Zach. And I really enjoyed electrical work. I have like a passion. I really love it. And I had been working for him part-time, and just the way the schedules were and just different aspects just didn't quite line up. And there was a couple times where we were like, wow, I don't know, and I was like, and finally something, a life situation happened. And Zach's like, okay, here's the deal. And I'm like, all right, okay, let's do it. And so I resigned, and so so at this time period, I'm working for Zach full time, and they're like, "Man, what, you do jiu-jitsu?" And this young kid Ralph that works with us, phenomenal guy, phenomenal kid, and they're like, "Oh man, that's so cool! You should totally do it." And then I'm like, "Well, I don't know." I was like, "I don't know what the interest is going to be here. Like, no one knows what it is,
Right,
And and so they're like, "Oh, totally do it." I was like, oh, "Okay, if we can get some people interested, we'll do like a class. We'll try it out." And so Zach's like calling up, brother-in-laws, and Ralph is, and Connie Joe's calling people, and my wife, and they putting it on Facebook, and we got like, a bunch of people, just like 20 people were like, "Oh, totally, we'll come try it out." Like, all right, well, let's try it. So we did like one night a week for like a couple months, and just people just kept coming and just loving it, and it just kind of took off from there. I was super resistive to it at first. I was like, I don't know if I want to.
Wild to me, but I
know.
Understand,
I was like, okay, but that's kind of how, like, if you've been following the pattern here. That's kind of been my MO.
Sure.
And the Lord always kind of like, okay.
I'm taking you this way.
Yeah, see the pattern
fine.
here? Yeah. So I'm trying to, I'm slowly trying to learn to not, kick back. So I feel like the Lord's trying to teach me something there. And I'm always like, always takes me more than once to learn something.
I feel like I can totally relate.
I was just like, can't get it through my head,
Sure.
And so. But yeah, so here we are, almost a year later.
Yeah, that's
and cool. just the response that I'm just blown away by the response that we've been getting from like past relationships that I've built in Colorado with, like, Jeremy coming out.
Yeah, that's
cool. Tony Collette, I met through my neighbor, he's used to live here. Now he was a brown belt and detective in Denver, and he's like super into it. He's like, man, I'm so stoked that you're like bringing that to Northwest Kansas because it's never been here before. We're the first gym, first experience of jiu-jitsu in this area. You'd have to go all the way to Kansas City or Denver to find this.
That's super cool.
And people are just, I'm blown away by how people have just kind of accepted it. And I'm like, well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
As long as you guys are in it, I'm in it there. It's not about me and not about, what I'm building. Cause it's, it's you guys, everyone that's in the gym, just running with it and taking with, otherwise I'd just be standing there by myself.
Well, I'll tell you, like I said, I haven't been going very long, but I love the sport already. Like it's super cool. But I love what you're doing. I love the atmosphere, the people, and maybe and I feel like that's what you're alluding to. Like that's what it's about. But I feel like it is super cool. Yeah,
it's like you were saying, it's about the people for me. Like some of the people that have come up to me and shared like the struggles that they went through just to walk through the door, and then what they're dealing with in their personal lives, and how certain aspects of jiu-jitsu and just the interaction with each other has helped change their lives for like a positive direction. And there's some really neat stories. If you get to know some of the people that have been coming, I mean, some of the neat stories that they have to tell are just that was the biggest thing, I think, that Chad Robichaux, and he was so just intuitive to use that in his program with helping soldiers, though. Chad would tell a story about, when he was struggling at some of his darkest moments with PTSD and struggling through the things that he was going through in life and what he went through over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he would call up a buddy at like 11:30, midnight, be like, hey, meet me at the gym. I can't sleep. He's stuff's going through his head. Meet me at the gym, and he'd go roll for 2 hours at midnight with a buddy that would go out, and how that helped him work through some of his struggles and in his life. And I looked at that and I go, oh, wow, okay,
that's cool.
And then I see it just organically happening with some of the people here, just in their. They might not have gone and fought a war in another country, but they're fighting a different war here in their own family or in this town or, their job or whatever. And just that they can say, man, this has helped me out so much. Like, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have this avenue to express my,
Right. Well, because I feel like for the listener or maybe someone that's never done it, it's not about like just kicking the crap out of someone. That's not it at all. It's not. It's like it's very technical in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. And you obviously could explain it much better. And I guess I'm just trying to say that there is a flow to it that there is such a. It's enjoyable because I feel like it's different than most things.
It can be. I mean? Like, I agree with you. It can be. And unfortunately, with so many gyms and it really highly depends on the type of people that are in there, the type of people, the instructors, the mindset, the curriculum, the philosophy. If you really look back at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I had Stacy. She trains at our gym, and she gave me this book called Breathe by Hickson Gracie, one of the legends of the Gracie family. And I believe he was the second brother to come to the States. Horan was the first. That was his older brother. And they opened up the Gracie Academy in Torrance, California. Okay. And so, and read this book on his philosophy and just this, that, and the other. And Stacy was reading it, and she gave it to me, and I read through it, and it was just the history and the background that came with that. It was so cool. And then, how, it had that their love for the art and to teach people, they're in it to teach the self-defense aspects of jiu-jitsu for someone like maybe Stacy, smaller, feral gal. If you were to walk into a gym for the first time and all of a sudden you're just running into a bunch of blue, purple belts that really don't care anything about your well-being, and they're there to train for a competition or something like that. You know what I mean? And just smash the crap out of you for white belt. She wouldn't have lasted.
Right. Yeah.
The story that she gave me just to get through the door was terrifying. You know, she just like had to literally have a friend push her through the door. But look at her now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's cool.
You know, and so
what a story.
Yeah, I'm so humbled by it because it's nothing that I've been doing. It's just how everybody has come together and adopted that.
And I can appreciate the humility for sure, but it's not nothing that you've done. It's not. It has much to do with you, because I feel like all of this stuff, and I feel like this is the coolest. This is the reason that we can talk to anyone about anything. But my passion is people. I love people.
Right.
I love people's story. But I think the thing that we get to do on this podcast is basically whatever we want. But what I'm saying. But we get to talk to people about what God has. It's all for God's glory. And so all of the things that you've been through to sort of bring you to this place. And it's not like, hey, this is what I was here for. It's not. I don't mean it in that extravagant extent, but I mean it in a sense of all of those things are for a purpose, and therefore, man, you are able to use this thing as a vessel to be able to engage people, to be able to offer that level of healing. I'm telling you, man, I love it. I last Friday, because Wednesday was tough for me.
Okay.
Last Wednesday was tough for me, man, and it's not about the win.
Go ahead, explain that. I want to hear it.
It's not I mean, it's not necessarily about the wins and losses.
Okay, fair
right?
enough.
It's not because you're not going to win them all. That's not my issue. What I don't like is that I want to be good.
Sure.
Right? Like in a part
anybody
of that.
does.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like you showed us this armbar defense, and I couldn't make it work, man.
Okay.
Like I got tapped every time I went out, and I could not get it tapped.
Sure.
And so it's like that's frustrating to me, because it's like you've given me the tools and I can't even stink and use them.
Sure.
So I was frustrated.
Sure.
Now I went into Friday like, look, I'm going to have fun, and I think I went more times than I didn't. Like when I love it, and I went out because I
tend to push you a little harder though. I was throwing him in the fire a little more.
Oh, okay. All right. Anthony, I love it, man. I went out because I was oxygen depleted, and I was like, man, like
his face was like cherry red at one point. If I remember right, and I said, "Get back in there," and he was like,
"But I love it."
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man.
But he put a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's what I'm saying. He wouldn't do it unless he was. I mean,
right.
He's the person that would do that. Like,
right.
Yeah. So I went out, and I was kind of. I fought the urge to lay on the cold concrete.
Okay.
You know, just to get some air, man. And I praise God.
Cool.
I praise God because not that like I was made for this, but that I need that in my life.
Sure.
You know, a part of my story, and again, not to get too far off, but like, I grew up rough, man.
Sure.
Like, a single mom, 4 kids, all different dads. I mean, all sort of meatheads coming in and out, and just the trauma of all the things that you can imagine. I believe that God used wrestling to save my life.
Okay.
I absolutely believe that,
too.
without a doubt. And so to go this long period of time where it's like, and I've been coaching for the last several years and love it. And so I get these opportunities every once in a while, to roll with the kids. And at the end of our season, the high school season has ended, and so we get some high school kids in, and that's when I get to really get after it. Love it. So the opportunity that God and your obedience, has provided for me, dude, has been awesome, because I need. And maybe I don't want to make it sound like it's an idol by any means, because
right, sure.
I don't mean it like that.
Right.
I'm saying I need it in a sense that I love it. Right. It's like you go back to that analogy of like the German Shepherd, getting the rabbit, and it's like,
it just fits.
What do I do with it?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
And so this is not that. Right. Like I got a long way to go and learn, and I am thirsty for that, but I also am like, okay, there's a pace here.
In
You know what I'm
stride.
saying? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I'm okay with that, but like, just overall, I love it, man. So I'm excited for what you're doing here, for sure. And I love your mentality. I love the way that you foster family and just the culture in general. And I feel like you do manage that tension. I'm excited for all that said. And I don't, I mean, we could probably go all night, but I do want to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
Okay. One is, I want to ask you, what did your dad do really well?
My dad
Raising you.
raising me?
Right into him. I mean, because I see you in my interaction with you're a solid man.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? I get it.
So, I think one thing that I could say for my father, he was, his ear was always there.
Mm-hmm.
That he was just, if he needed anything, you asked him. He was always like, "I'm always here. Ask me."
Is he like you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, boy?
Yeah, I don't know. He was definitely he was definitely a no BS assessment type, though. I mean, he didn't step out of line for sure. But I mean, it was just, discipline, and he was always there to lend an ear. I mean,
okay,
yeah,
that's good. I mean, I'm asking because I'm a dad, and
yeah,
I need to do better. You know what I mean? Like we all need to do better.
And and I'm not saying that there wasn't a struggle there, because he had a lot going, full-time job, pastor. So he had to be an ear. He had to be an ear for 50 other people.
Sure.
Going through all their own BS,
Sure.
Sure. And so, and a lot of credit, and I'll tell you this too, because, a lot of credit goes to our mom, growing up as kids, because, she took a lot of time out of her life, because she taught, we were homeschooled for a good part of our schooling years. I mean, we went to high school, but she, put in a lot of time and effort into that too. Sure. So, yeah.
So you did well.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. They did the best they knew how.
Sure. Right. Which is awesome. And
yeah, you can't ask any more than that.
Yeah, for sure.
For winging it.
Yeah. What is this is loaded, but I feel like listening to your story, it'll be simple, but listening to your story, man, like I'm inspired, and I know the listeners are going to be, but what does Jesus mean to you? Like through all of this, man, because,
kind of like I said, just an ear, and of course, obviously, the obvious, our Savior, what he did for us.
What does he mean to you, though?
But to me, yeah, an ear. I mean, he's there, you can tell him anything. If it comes down to, especially, 2017, I'll say, there's a lot of times where it's just like, there's no one else to talk to in some regards. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all I got, right? Off the bat. I mean,
pretty cool. Now, how long have you been married?
Oh, you had to do that, didn't you?
Well, no, I
don't know. It's some years.
11 years.
It's been a while.
11 years.
I feel like that's cool.
Yeah.
So, all been roses. Any advice you want to give?
Roses.
I mean, you're basically an expert, right, at marriage? Is that right?
Black belt in marriage.
Blue belt in Jiu Jitsu, black belt in marriage.
You corrected that so fast.
Yeah, blue. Yeah, I might take it back to white.
All right.
No. Well, I'm not trying to get you in any trouble by any means, but
yeah, 11 years coming up, and so just man, that went so fast. It almost seems just like yesterday, man. That was a fast 11 years.
I feel like that's cool. Megan and I joke, and we'll be married 6 years at the end of May, and so but we joke, with one another, and,
Sure.
and it's in a kind way that it feels like 26.
I gotta tell you, I'd have to give more credit to Amy than anything, because to put up with my BS, I was probably not the easiest son of a gun, and I'm a slow learner when it comes to,
Yeah, we've gathered that.
you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a slow learner, man.
Someone has to kick you in the direction.
Talk about patience. Amy's is on the definition there. I mean,
Man, that's awesome. Proverbs 31, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
what?
So marriage
Yeah.
advice?
Oh yeah, marriage advice.
I don't know if I've got any of that, man.
You got 11
Just
years
like-
under your belt.
I
Yeah,
love
dude,
you. I love
help
you.
us out.
I love you,
man.
honey.
Come on.
Marry a patient woman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's a
would
good one.
agree with that. But I couldn't do this without her. I mean, you're talking about what we're doing as a gym, and all this, that, and the other. But what Amy's doing behind the scenes, the phone calls, the connections that the Lord had kind of guided her through her job, which she was PR and head of marketing at the hospital for 4 years.
Okay.
And just the connections she made in the community, it's definitely not me.
Well, hey, man, that team. Right?
Yeah, see, the work that she's put into this, and the love she has for it, and what she's just pouring into it with just her marketing. That she's she went to school for business and marketing, and
Well, I tell you what, that the social media stuff is. I was telling her.
I couldn't
hey,
do.
take notes.
Yeah,
she does very well.
I couldn't do it. I would not know the first thing.
We
And-
don't.
No, that's
it's
one of
just-
our biggest struggles.
So I got someone that might be out with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
All right,
you
that
know.
works
So,
out.
Yeah,
if you could, so you declined to give us marriage advice. Fine.
marriage advice.
No. What now? If there's a characteristic that all men should cultivate, like if you could narrow it down to what is
Dude, I think, one thing that I think I've learned, am learning, and I've watched, my parents' relationship too, and it would be like, do one thing is like, now careful, not don't do this too much, but slow to speak. I've been guilty though of not speaking at all.
Oh,
That's another one.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, not saying anything at all.
Like you need the nudge to do that.
Just respond. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, sometimes you can shut down. But for me, be slow to respond is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be slow to respond.
Yeah.
Because it's a cycle. There was a book a couple gave us. It was called The Crazy Cycle. And I'm sure there's been plenty of people that have read it. I don't know if you've read it.
I feel like I've heard of it.
But the basic idea behind it is that whole, I say something and then you respond, but then I respond back again.
Oh,
and so
right.
we're never going to get out of that crazy cycle of offending each other or doing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I say be slow to respond,
Yeah.
be the first one to go ahead and stop the circle.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I
said.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Great
You're
value.
right. If we're two people are doing nothing but throwing fists, just be the first to be like, all right,
Okay.
well, just wait a second.
Yeah.
I gotta get my thoughts together.
Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's good stuff.
Absolutely. So
What else? Chris Douglas.
you wrote something down.
I don't know.
there. Was that-
It's not important.
You've been
now.
asking all these questions. I need some Joseph to ask some questions. I mean, man.
The only question I wrote down, and it's really stupid now because I think I wrote it as soon as we pressed record.
Okay.
What if Shay said I couldn't do the podcast anymore?
Did she say that?
No.
Okay, good.
Oh, it's like, this is kind of a
Be
cool thing you guys are
slow-
doing here.
Be slow to respond.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'm gonna take the advice.
Which I
Yeah.
have never been guilty of, by the way.
being
Ever.
slow.
To respond.
Yeah.
No, dude. I'm like a.
Just like, bang.
What'd you say to me?
Gosh, dang it, man. I mean, I need to work on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm guilty of 10 minutes later going, why did I say that?
Right.
Why did that come out of my
Can I
dumb
tip
mouth?
that?
But I'll tell you,
I can't have that back.
the part that I
Okay.
struggle with the most, though, is the not responding at all. You ask my wife, talk to my wife.
Oh,
She'll
okay.
tell you anything. Is just not responding at all.
Is it like in terms of is it avoiding the conflict or is it ignoring.
There could be both for sure,
no kidding.
definitely.
Oh, man.
I'm just like,
My wife would string me up.
Oh yeah,
for
absolutely.
ignoring.
I've been
like,
strung up.
So
I
it's like,
joke
Yeah.
with her like like ignoring.
Yeah.
Oh my stars.
Yeah.
So is this
It was
like
a joke,
confrontation, or
lady.
it could just be, I'm just ignoring him for right now, or
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I think and this is my tell. And Amy will, she'll laugh when she hears this, but it's just like, well, let me think about that.
Oh,
I'll get back to you.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and then I'll just let it I'll sweep it under the rug
Oh,
because
there you
that's there's probably some iniquity there too if you think about it, because if you go back to the Amish and the Mennonite backgrounds, they are like super like zero confrontation, sweep it under. Everyone knows what's going on. It's there. You know what I mean? But they just.
that's interesting.
No
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's there's some part on my part there too, but there's some good aspects to being slow to respond. I get that, but then you go too far,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
and whoops, So
Doggone.
that's my struggle for sure.
I was really hoping that we were gonna forget about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you brought it back up.
Oh yeah. You know what? I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah. Burn it. Yeah. So
That's good.
All right. Was there anything else you want to get off your chest, or I mean?
You want to call it Chris for anything? Because now's the time
Yeah.
to do it.
Oh, actually, yeah. Let's do that, man. How
call
am
out
I
Chris.
doing in class, man? What's
Oh,
your
okay. Here we
perspective?
go.
Yeah,
So
here
why
we
are
go.
you? My biggest. I'll get to you.
Oh
biggest-
my goodness.
My biggest question is, why are you not in class?
Have you formally invited me?
I feel like
I feel like you-
You
I don't
are
know if.
formally invited.
Oh, there you
I
go.
probably should go to one if I'm invited for
You
sure.
should at least try it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And
you
I
should at
think
least
you
try.
should do more than
Because
one.
well, here's the thing, like that, like going
How
back
many
to.
do I have to do to get a good taste of it?
Probably a few
Dude,
years.
No,
I knew someone was gonna-
yeah,
a couple
yeah.
years.
See,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wants to keep you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so I would do at least two. Don't throw the
Okay.
don't throw the cat out with
Well,
the
because
kitty
the
litter.
other thing, I feel like I'm gonna say at least 4.
Okay,
Sessions?
And
okay.
just
Does
because
someone do it and they hate it? And
You know,
why do they
you
hate
might
it?
you might check it out and be like, man, I don't know, I just
Just not for me.
Well, 'cause
that, or you
Wednesday
just
and-
don't have the time. You got family, you got kids, etc. You know,
Okay.
any amount of excuses.
There's
I'm,
no
giving,
wrong
I'm
reason.
giving you plenty of excuses, which I shouldn't do.
I
but
say exactly what you said.
yeah, but yeah, for sure.
Okay.
because the format. That's why I would say 4, because the format on Wednesday is different.
It's
than
totally
Friday.
different.
But if I don't have any equipment or anything, I can
No,
still just
no,
drop
no
it.
gi,
Okay,
no
okay.
gi for sure.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think
he was like,
I think your first time you show up in your underwear though, so that you do
I
that.
can't believe you fell for it. Why are all the cameras on me
Shut
right
up.
now? Dang it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm formally invited, so there'll definitely have to be an episode to look forward to in the future when I
we should
review.
film
yeah,
that
we gotta do a
my
review.
session.
Yeah,
There
you
you
could
go.
do a review and then.
All right, so tell me, man.
So questions for you. So what? No, okay. So you brought it down to, and we're standing on the street. I think this was Friday.
Yeah.
I think it was Friday, and you brought it down to a heavy level, and you
Oh,
kind of.
sorry.
He did. I was cool. I was
That's
intrigued
where
by
I'm
it.
at, but-
But no, it was good. It was cool. But I was just like, I didn't want to dig into it too much right then because we're on the side of the street, and I knew you had to get home, and I was dealing with something personal too that night. I was dealing. Because I remember you asked me twice, like, dude, are you all right? What's going on?
I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell.
I'm hard sometimes with my facial expression. If I'm dealing with something, you're gonna probably know it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Unless I try to hide it really well, and I'm not very good at that. But that's my wife. And so,
What's wrong?
yeah, what's wrong? And so, exactly.
That's good.
And so, you were talking about your struggle, and I think maybe it was by and part like maybe you were struggling with the arm bar, and then I was talking to you about Mike, and he had done something. And he was the first one. He come to me. I know I was wrong. That wasn't cool. I am so sorry. He wanted your phone number, and he was going to call you, but I don't know if he did. I don't think he did.
No, he talked to me.
Yeah, he
and
came
I
up
was
and
like,
talked to you.
What are you talking about,
Right.
man?
And so I thought that was so super cool of him,
Yeah,
though.
sure.
And because that's just, I was like, man, sweet. Talk about culture. And then you come up to me out on the street and you're like, man, I'm just loving this. I was just a little frustrated with that. And you're like, due to your like background, you're like, man, I've I know you're talking about, the tap not being necessarily a loss or a negative thing, and you're like, but I've lost so much in life. you're relating like the losses on the mat, maybe, so to speak, which, you know, we're trying to, you know, reformat that as you're learning, you know what I mean? And you were kind of translating that loss on the mat so much to like maybe some losses in life. You're like, I've lost so much during life. And I just, you know, that's a spot right here for you. And so like, how is that, like, go a little deeper with that, you know, like what is it, are you having a hard, is it just trying to find are you making a negative connection here and here?
No. Well, I don't know about that. Okay, so in life, right? Like I'm not trying to over spiritualize things, but it's just like the German Shepherd and the rabbit. Like I'm here, and what do I do with this thing? And I feel like I understand wrestling I love wrestling. Okay,
yeah.
So so it's the scrap, it's the fight.
Yeah,
that's what I love.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so in jiu-jitsu, it's like, okay, what the main point is to pass guard, dominant position, get a tap. Okay, so I'm fighting for good position.
Yeah.
What the heck do I do with it when I get here? And so there's this this sort of frustration, and in that process, how I would relate that to life is, I'm doing all that I know to do, right? And you know, I had a right, and my sons, their mom, you know, I'm doing all the right things, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a youth leader at a church, and I'm trying to lead my family in a good way,
right? And
she walks out, you know, into the arms of another dude, and I'm here to be a single dad and to, you know, console my sons, you know, and one was, you know, I think he had just turned 2, and so it wasn't as big of a deal for him. But you know, I got a 6-year-old who is broken. Yeah. And I'm broken.
Sure.
And so, you know what I'm saying? It's I'm doing all the right things, but this is what's happening. And so, I'm not necessarily tying the negative together. I'm saying, like, I love this, and I want to do good. And so
I'm trying to do all the right things, but the outcomes
right. And so I want to get it.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
It's not like a perfectionist thing, and it's not like I want to be here, but you've got to walk the path.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not naive to that. So
right.
it's more of just hold myself to a high standard and wanting to
do the right things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can see that's your heart. You're like, I'm trying to do all the right things, but I'm taking a bag over the head punch to the face.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's that. So it's not a matter of like winning and losing per se.
Sure.
But it's just a matter of like, I'm chomping at the bit, but I realize it takes time.
Right. And so, and if you listen to some other podcasts, there's a lot of podcasts, Jiu Jitsu and some guys, Chewy, and they do he does some podcasts. They just talk about Jiu Jitsu and life and such, and probably not on a spiritual basis like we are. But you know, the common thread through a lot of gyms, okay, and ours is very different because it's from the ground up. Same with Jeremy Wynand in Pueblo. You first open up, you don't have a depth already established of blue, purple, brown, and black, and so everybody's kind of starting here. As opposed to you coming into an already established gym and you've got some depth, okay? Right. And so the atypical experience that you're going to find that you're not necessarily experiencing just due to the nature of our circumstances and what we had to deal with, okay? You're going to come into a gym and you're going to have that depth. And when you finally get to that point where you can go live roll, et cetera, a lot of gyms won't let you do that until you get your 3rd stripe on your white belt. They will not let you go do a live roll with anybody because you don't know what you're doing. You've got some tools and you want to get to here, but you don't know how to do it quite effectively, and you end up hurting yourself or somebody else.
Right.
Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the whole concept there. And so what a lot of coaches and other gyms and black belts will describe your white belt years as is, and this is why it is so hard for people to come into a gym and stay or last as a white and blue, is your entire white belt, you are not probably going to be doing or generating any type of offense at all whatsoever.
Okay.
All you're going to end up doing is just, you'll end up being smashed and you're going to be working defense. You will not mount any offense. Maybe you might do a little offense with some fellow white belts that maybe you're coming up with you, but that's going to be pretty rare that you come in with someone that is new just like you.
Okay.
You might, they might start a few months before, a few months after, so generally you're still just going to be like this. And then you're going to have, this up here, purple belt or blue belt or whatever. And they're generating a lot of offense on you. And then you got a lot of that. And then you got me, blue and a purple. And so we're all blue and purples tend to be pretty much just right here. It's alley street cats. And then you've got a brown belt. So now, this is true.
That's funny. Yeah.
And then, because you're kind of growing into your game there. And then, and then what you have is you have your brown belt. So then now I'm as a blue and a purple belt, we're fighting a lot of defense with the browns and the black belts. See what I mean? So you have a chain there, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
And so really the atypical experience as a white belt is you're probably not going to be launching any offense whatsoever. You're going to be just defending yourself, getting smashed, and just tough knocks. But due to the nature of our gym,
right,
and of course some of the different approaches that I'm taking, and some different philosophies that I'm taking from maybe some Gracie Academy that I'm learning from, I'm altering that. You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel like you have to,
I'm learning from somebody else, and of course, you do have that aspect that pretty much everybody's coming up together for the most part. You came in a little bit later than most of the other people, but really, if you look at the turnover rates, you're going to always have big turnover rates in your gym. But, from that first class, the opening night, I've only got 2 people from that original group. Well, 3 now, Ralph probably. So, and then, people have died off and just for various reasons, but yeah, so that's kind of that whole thing. So when you talk about, man, I really want to get there, it is pretty normal. It's, I would say, a normal, necessary process in some respects that you're going through. You're not going through anything different than no one else. No, you're not going through anything different than I went through.
Well, it actually sounds maybe a little easier, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I walked into it. I mean, so for sure. But
cool,
yeah,
man.
It's enjoyable. So, man, it's been good.
Yeah, I agree with Chris, man. We could go another couple hours if you guys wanted to.
I don't want to keep you guys up.
I
don't have to go to work in the morning, so
all right.
I'm good for whatever you guys want to do. But I realize you guys probably have jobs. Wait a minute, aren't you on break?
No, I got to go in tomorrow.
Okay,
and then we got Easter break. What about you? You got work tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right.
But
what do you say? You want to wrap it up?
I'm good if you guys are.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, man.
As long as you guys got what you.
Is there anything you want to throw out to the listeners? Want them to know about? Come check out Jiu Jitsu or what? What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm not going to take over my wife's job, man.
Oh, okay.
I'm not stepping on her toes, but
but hey, do come give it a shot, and we'll video document your process, Joseph.
Oh man, that would be sweet.
Listeners would like that. 4 sessions is what you're saying. 4 videos. People would get a good kick out of that because I have. No wrestling, no martial. I mean, nothing. Empty cup.
That's about 90% of the people in there.
Okay. Fair enough.
There's only a handful, I think, of people that I think it's just Chris and Mike.
I like Mike.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Mike, I love that dude.
Yeah.
He's like yourself, drank the Kool-Aid hard, and he's.
Well, he was telling me about because I was asking him about Friday or how things are going to be now that Colby's going.
Yeah,
is he gonna still come over? He's like, well, yeah, I got to come on Wednesdays because
he's bringing Brandon.
Yeah, and then obviously I want to come on Fridays, and so it's like and hopefully things will go well, and maybe you guys will put another day in. So it's like that guy's gonna be rolling 4 days a week.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll do that. He's
right?
already been kind of discovering, like he was talking to me on Friday. He was already kind of discovering, because he's in his 40s. And I believe it was last Friday. We were learning that armbar defense, and it kind of has a bit of a stack in it, and he kind of stacked his neck a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of happens when you get folded up a little bit. And he was going, yeah, man, my neck. And, and I was like, yeah, you got to, there's a difference, because he's much like yourself. He's like super heavy paced, and he just wants to really go, it's called the white belt spaz is what everybody calls it. You know what I mean? Because you're just,
I can see it.
you don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something.
Yeah, exactly. A whole lot of movement.
And it's more dangerous than anything, really.
Great.
And so, he's learning and then he's reading into this whole, because jiu-jitsu does change as you change in your age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a way you can roll when you start to get older that you probably don't want to do anymore. You don't want to roll in your 40s like you did in your 20s.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just probably not going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to be a different
Saturday
approach.
morning, boy, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like I did. And I know I'm only 35. I'm still young, but when I was training in my early 20s and I was doing competitions and stuff, I was doing a lot of competitions in my early 20s, and that guy probably would kick my butt.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was an animal, and less technique for sure. I was a little more in shape, but I don't roll quite like I did then. Definitely not.
Yeah, I could see that because I think what Jeremy brought down the gosh darn it, I can't remember the guy's
Miguel.
name. Well,
yes.
There was like he was 21.
Oh,
young guy.
Shoot, I should remember his name. This is embarrassing. Kyle? It was started with an R. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Guy, cool kid. I liked him.
Yeah. He was fun. I enjoyed rolling with him because he was
super chill for a white belt too. I was impressed with him.
Well, but if like you say,
but he has a lot better instruction though. I'm gonna give him that.
He's at a gym where he's
going like 5-6 nights a week.
Yeah,
this kid has totally drank the Kool-Aid, and he is a cool dude.
Yeah,
cool kid. And I was just like, wow. He just was like, man, I love rolling. You could just tell it in his eyes, man. He was just there.
Right on.
But
all right, let's shut her down.
All right, man. Yeah, it's been a good one. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Dude,
man.
thanks for having me, guys. I know I ramble a little bit, but I try to keep things focused.
It was good stuff. Did we want to, just for the people who are going to watch the video, did we want to prove to them, Chris, do you have a piercing that you want to talk about?
Nope.
Is there
just
any
kidding.
Hey, what is going on? What is going on, man? Why would you do that?
It's such a terrible inside joke. No one will ever know. But we had a fun conversation before we pressed record.
It was wild.
Yeah, real fun.
little gold nugget no one will ever know about. But we're gonna wrap it up, brothers and sisters. Man, it has been a good one, Anthony. I'd like to have you on again, man, just because this conversation was.
I would love to
really
come.
Good.
This was a cool experience. Never done something like this before.
Now next,
you'll probably come on after I do my sessions to be like,
let's do that. Do a
cool.
follow up. That would be so cool.
That would be good. But do you want to plug the next episode?
Oh heck yeah!
What's the next
RL
one?
or JL or what?
Let's see. What would come out first though? This or RL?
This
will come out first.
One,
okay.
So I'm saying.
All right. So
sorry.
No. Okay. Yeah. I'm brain fart. The episode following this, we will have RL Solberg from. I gotta look up his.
Well, we mentioned him last week, I believe, or maybe the week before. It's been.
I know
it's all a blur, but this is the individual that is very educated in the Hebrew roots movement.
Yes.
Okay,
so
you were telling me about that
defending the
week.
biblical roots of Christianity. So RL Solberg. Now his big focus is push back against the Hebrew roots movement.
Okay.
Super thorough guy. Be looking forward to that episode. What he does is addresses claims from the Hebrew roots movement, and not only that, he just pushes against it using nothing but scripture. And he'll take claims from them, he'll take their interpretations of scripture, and he'll really break it down to the word and multiple usage of that word and show you why their claims don't work.
And then, dude, we want to give we got some excellent news today. Are we wanting to share that yet?
I want to wait until we get a date locked down, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But let's throw this one out there for the listeners. Chris and I snagged, in my opinion,